So I've been wanting to do this video for a while. This is my CanAm X3 RC DS rock crawling edition. I like to go to the dunes, and when I bought this bike I had just rolled a 2018 Razor and totaled it, and then I decided to jump up to this thing, and I was looking for the suspension is what I was looking for. So when I got this out of the box, I can tell you right now, me and my wife were both fairly disappointed in the ride and the comfort in it altogether. It's taken me a couple of weeks and a couple of trials out in the sand dunes, but we've got it figured out. One thing I want to tell you is that I've driven it for 2 weeks with the seats forward, and that's this adjustment right there on that bolt right there. I've driven it with the seats forward, and I've driven it with the seats back. Definitely with the seats back is more comfortable. And after I've got the suspension dialed in, the car just rode 100 times better, and it's 100-fold what my the suspension on my Razor 1000 Turbo 2018. So now that we've got it all dialed in, we love it. And a couple things that I wanted to point out here is when you do this for Polaris gives you this fancy little tool right here, and that's to adjust your shocks with. In my opinion, you can just go ahead and take that and throw it in the trash. It is absolutely no good. So this is the suspension that that will tune this car to, and you can see right here. You can go online and get this off the Fox video. And then I have these are the tools that I used to set up my suspension. So first thing you got to do is take this hammer and the screwdriver, and you walk over here, and whether you're working on the front or the rears, you just take it and put this on here and loosen that ring right there. Just take the hammer and loosen the ring. I've already adjusted the suspension on mine, so I'm not really going to adjust the suspension. I'm just going to show you what tools I used and the easiest way that I found to do it. So you take that, you loosen your rings. Now the next thing that we've learned is when you go ahead and adjust the springs. When I went for my ride out of Dumont this last weekend, I noticed that a lot of people were out there and they did the adjustments on here. And this adjustment here, but they didn't adjust their springs, and you could tell because when you go through the whoops, I mean, I can blow through the whoops at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour like they're absolutely nothing, and you could see the back of their buggies just bumping and just bucking. And once you adjust the suspension, you eliminate all that, and your ride is just, it's 100-fold better. So the best way to do it, I've found, is to take these straps. And what you do is you take these straps right here and you put them up here. You would loop them through right here, and then take them and loop them all the way down here, somewhere in here. Now we just used one strap when we did mine, but I found out if you use two, one on each side of the shock, then you just wrench those down. But the best thing to do is get to somebody to get up here on the back of the bike, sit on the back of the bike, compress your springs as much as you can, then stick the straps on there and go ahead and ratchet them down as tight as you can get them, and that'll break this loose right here. And then once you broke that loose right there, it's real easy to move these things down. Now again, I'm not going to go through the exact way that because this is the tune that I did right here. I've made a couple other minor adjustments since then on my LSC, which is the bolt. I've did one more turn on this one, and then on these ones right here, on the back off of this right here, on this one on my back. Right here, I've got that set at 15 instead of 20. That's the only difference that I have from that tune. And once you do it, you will 10 pounds of air pressure and there's nothing you can't do, and the ride is so much better. Now, another way, when you go to jack these things up, it's almost impossible to jack them up with a jack. I mean, you can do it, but if you have access or a buddy with a friend or a forklift, it sure makes it easier to use a forklift to pick these things up and adjust the suspension. If you know what you're doing, and even if you don't, and you use the straps and you use a forklift, you can do this in about probably an hour, half hour up front and a half hour in the rear. First time I did it with the jacks in the rear, or jack up front, and then I went and got the forklift. I said, I can't do it anymore with the jacks because there's just too much suspension on them. So now that I've adjusted my ride height, I was running stock out of the factory. I was running about 12 inches. Now you can look at this thing right here, and we're running about 15 and a half, 16 inches of travel height, if you look at it real closely. And that's where it should be. That's where you should be to get the best suspension out of the bike. And once you do it, again, you will not regret it, and the ride is so much better. But I just wanted to share the tools that we use to adjust the suspension, and that's it. Thanks.